Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Fr.TEDTalks. Today, I wanted to speak about becoming a catechumen. Now, who is a catechumen? A catechumen is an adult person who is not an Orthodox Christian yet, who wants to enter into the Orthodox Church. They're coming from different backgrounds, whether they be different religious backgrounds or non-religious backgrounds, and they have stumbled upon, by the grace of God, the Orthodox Church, and have made a decision to join the body of Christ, which is the Holy Orthodox Church. And so when an adult wants to do this, they go through a period of catechism. Catechism, of course, the word catechism is a Greek word. It means, to learn the faith or to be taught the faith. And while somebody is going through this phase of preparation, they themselves are called a catechumen, right? So we have groups of catechumens within the church. And of course, different people from different backgrounds have different questions and also have different journeys. But generally speaking, the Orthodox Church tries to provide a proper and in-depth catechism for those people who want to enter her, because it is important for people to understand why they're becoming Orthodox. What are they getting themselves into? What does the faith teach? And all the other things like that. And so when somebody wants to become a catechumen, there is a process. Now, I'm going to speak only on behalf of myself and what I do here at this particular church, which is the Church of Prophet Elias, Greek Orthodox Church in Mississauga, Canada, in Ontario. And of course, different churches and different priests might have slightly different methods. Maybe they have a shorter catechism, maybe they have a longer one. Every priest is slightly different and every jurisdiction is slightly different. But along general lines, there should always be a proper preparation to enter into the church if you are an adult. Of course, babies who are baptized in the church, they are not catechumens because they learn after the fact since they are infants. So they are baptized into the faith first, and then they learn from their parents and also from their godparents as they grow into maturity. But of course, adults is a different story because they are making a conscious choice to enter the church, leaving one background, whether it be religious or non-religious, and to enter into the faith. And so because they are of age and they can make their own decisions, it is important that we offer them the most amount of information, the best preparation that we can, so that they can make the most informed and prayerful decision for their own spiritual lives and what they plan to do in the future. And so what does it mean to be a catechumen, and what should you look for, and what should you be wary of? So first of all, at least here at Prophet Elias, there are two aspects to being catechumen and going through catechism. The first, of course, is, I would say, theoretical, although there is no such thing as theoretical theology in the Orthodox Church. All theology in the Orthodox Church is practical, which means that everything we learn about the faith has a practical application to our lives. But when I say theoretical, I mean, the knowledge that needs to be imparted, right? The things that we need to learn to familiarize ourselves with, that kind of helps us understand what the Orthodox Church is. So this kind of theoretical aspect is usually given, at least here, in the form of podcasts and videos that I administer to our catechumens through online email and things like that, and also a series of meetings where we discuss those videos and podcasts, and we, I'm able to answer any questions that the catechumen might have. So usually what happens is that I have multiple different units that I've kind of separated this material into, units that talk about Orthodox dogma, about the Orthodox church history, about the sacraments, about the spiritual life, about scripture, about the lives of the saints, and contemporary moral issues. All these types of things are there to kind of help give you a good introduction into the Orthodox Church. Now, of course, the Orthodox Church being 2,000 years old, being the root of Christianity, it is impossible for somebody to learn everything or to familiarize themselves with everything. But the best that we can do is to give you a good, well-rounded, introduction, and also to allow you, as the catechumen, time to ask questions, to be able to question what the faith is teaching, and to become comfortable with these teachings. And so the theoretical aspect is there to learn different aspects of the faith and to engage with the priest or the catechist with your questions to help you better understand, both spiritually and intellectually, what the Orthodox Church is about. So there is that part of it. Of course, there's also the second part, which is the practical side of the catechumenate, which means basically the actual participation, as much as a catechumen can, in the worshiping community. Now, of course, as non-baptized members of the church at this point, one cannot participate, for example, in Holy Communion or any of the other sacraments. But catechumens are free to attend church, and they are encouraged to attend church as often as possible to attend a wide range of services, not just the Divine Liturgy on Sunday, but also to maybe attend a baptism, maybe attend a funeral, maybe attend a wedding, and of course get involved within the local community in which they're going to be baptized. Why? Because all of this helps in the enculturation of the individual, which means that it helps with somebody getting attuned and getting used to the worship life of the church, which is the main thing that we do in Orthodoxy, right? It's not enough just somebody to read about, about the church, but it is also important for somebody to experience the church. And so the second part, there's the theoretical side, the learning aspect of catechism, and of course there's the practical side of actually going to church, meeting people, making friends and connections within the community, perhaps also meeting your future godparent or your sponsor who will, help baptize you into the faith eventually. All these things are extremely important to become part of the community. And so these things go hand in hand. I don't think somebody can be a proper catechumen and have a proper preparation of entering into the faith without having these two elements, the theoretical, the theological, and of course the experiential, actually being part of the community. And so this is what we encourage here at Prophet Elias. Now, what are some of the things that we should be wary of? Well, of course, one of the things that we should be careful of is that we shouldn't be church hopping. I say this to regular baptized Orthodox Christians as well, that, it's not bad to visit different Orthodox churches, and perhaps in the beginning, when somebody is interested in Orthodoxy, they may visit many different Orthodox churches because they want to get a feel for what Orthodoxy is, and maybe they want to visit different jurisdictions. Maybe they prefer, the Greek way of liturgy, or the Russian way of doing liturgy, or the Antiochian way of doing liturgy. That's totally fine. But after we get through that initial, visitation and, getting to the point where we want to commit to Orthodoxy, it is really important that we find a home parish in which we are comfortable and we settle down in that home parish. We put up roots in a local community and we start going to the same church over and over again, which will eventually become our parish home. It's not good to keep jumping around during your catechumenate because, first of all, it is difficult to enculturate into a family, into a local community. It is difficult to have any consistency in teaching and catechism if you're jumping between different priests or different catechists or different catechetical programs. And of course, when you do become Orthodox, again, it is difficult to be an active Orthodox Christian if we don't put down roots, in a specific place, but rather we are kind of just jumping around in different places. So one thing I would say is that try to refrain, once you become a catechumen, from jumping around to different churches and different jurisdictions. Try to be dedicated to one place, especially during the bulk of your catechism time. So that's one thing. The second thing that I would say is that be very wary of the internet. Now, I know the internet, of course, is the most, prolific thing that is happening right now. It is everywhere. Indeed, you are watching me right now through the internet on YouTube. And so we use the internet pretty much for everything in our lives. The problem is that on the internet, especially when it comes to the Orthodox Church, there is no curating of what is, reliable and what is unreliable. On the internet, no one's going to tell you, especially if you are not familiar with Orthodoxy, no one is going to tell you what is actually Orthodox, what is authentically the official Orthodox position on different issues, and what is maybe fringe, fringe opinions or things that are downright either heretical or not very accurate, right? So somebody does a Google search and a website comes up that says orthodoxy.com, for example. I don't know if that's an actual website. I'm just using an example. And somebody sees Orthodox and they assume, well, it says Orthodox. Everything that is said on there must be accurate. But this is, of course, not the case. Just like on the internet, we don't know who is putting up information and where they're getting their information from. And so the problem is that a lot of people, what they do is they start researching online, and they get a lot of different types of opinions about a lot of different types of issues. And a lot of times catechumens get confused, or they tend to look or follow different trends online, whether they be, more conservative or more liberal. Even within the Orthodox Church, they will gravitate toward different personalities online, etc., etc., etc. All these things, I would say, are not very good, because what they do is that the internet often feeds our own ego and our own likes and dislikes, and especially a lot of algorithms, and search engines will continue to feed us into certain types of videos as opposed to other videos. Orthodoxy is not about that. Orthodoxy is one thing, And orthodoxy, the holy tradition, is one thing, and it requires a certain trust. Now, when we find a church and we find a priest that we like, we should put down roots there, and we should consult that particular priest or that particular catechist on what we should watch and what we shouldn't watch. Not that the priest should control what we find online or what we watch online, but rather that we can receive his guidance on what to look for and what to be wary of, because there are a lot of things online that are inaccurate. And so I would say be very, very wary of the internet, be very, very wary of looking up everything about orthodoxy online, because not everything is accurate, and sometimes we can get a false impression of what orthodoxy is, or we may be delving into, for example, topics or issues that we may know nothing about, or we may not even be ready yet to contemplate. Here we are trying to learn the basics of orthodoxy, and already somebody is already delving into, for example, church schisms or political problems between patriarchates or whatever the case may be. Those things are not really important for a catechumen, in my opinion. The important thing for a catechumen is to learn the basics of the Orthodox faith, to get a good, strong root in the holy tradition of orthodoxy, so that they can enter the church with a good, solid foundation. And then afterwards, as they grow and they mature in their faith, they will have a chance to kind of delve into all the other kind of surrounding issues of orthodoxy. And so be very, very aware of the internet. So, as I said, number one, try not to jump around to different churches and jurisdictions during your catechism process. Try to put roots down somewhere. Be very, very wary of the internet. And I would say the last thing is that just try not to be overzealous about about becoming Orthodox. And what do I mean by this? This is not to tamper down people's enthusiasm. A lot of people are very enthusiastic when they find Orthodoxy, especially if they are disenfranchised with their current religious background, and they find that they have found this kind of hidden jewel, which of course they have. However, it is really, really important to kind of remember that orthodoxy is the truth, is the fullness of the truth, but it is filled with flawed human beings, just like any faith is filled with flawed human beings. And we're all just struggling sinners trying to attain to the glory of God, and all of us fall short. So there is no perfect church, there's no perfect community, and so sometimes people expect that when they enter orthodoxy that they're going to find this perfect community, this perfect expression of Christianity in the world. And then sometimes when they enter, they become scandalized because they'll see that there is still human weakness, there are still people struggling with their own passions and their own difficulties and mistakes. And people say, well, if this is the truth, then why are people acting in this way? Well, people act that way because people are people. Human beings are human beings, and we're all sinners. And so we have to temper our expectations of the people. Of course, orthodoxy is true. The holy tradition is beautiful, and it is the fullness of the truth, at least in this life. And so we can take that for what it is, but remind ourselves that we're all just people and we're all just struggling. So we have to be very, very careful about that. There's one more kind of caveat, one more thing to be wary of, and that is what I would say is conversion burnout. And what does this mean? There's a phenomenon within the Orthodox Church that people who are entering into the faith, they have this beautiful buildup. They are learning the faith, they're in catechism, and they're building up to the day of their baptism. And finally, they get to the point of their baptism. They may have a wonderful, beautiful experience of baptism. They enter into the church. A lot of converts, after they've entered into the church, find that they experience a spiritual low immediately or very quickly after they have entered into the church. And that first year of being Orthodox is somewhat very difficult for many people. Why does this happen? The reason is because when somebody is building up in anticipation to enter something, of course, there is a lot of joy and zeal and anticipation. And of course, when that anticipation passes, there can be a low. Now, of course, also, we believe that the devil is not happy when people join the church. And so the spiritual attacks might become more after somebody enters the church, because of course the devil and his demons want people to kind of leave the faith as fast as they came into it. And so we have to expect these temptations. We have to expect this feeling that, okay, now I did all this preparation, now I'm Orthodox, what now? What's next? What's the next big thing? Just kind of settling into the everyday Orthodox life. The spiritual ascetic struggle of being Orthodox is a difficult thing, right? And this is why it's so important for people to be enculturated into a community beforehand, because this rhythm of life and the fasting and the feasting and all those kind of things are, so much part of the everyday life of being Orthodox that if you've never experienced it before, then when you get into that rhythm or attempt to get into that rhythm afterwards, it may feel tedious or difficult at times. And so, expect that spiritual low. It will pass. It's not something to be afraid of, and it's not something to leave the church over, but rather it is something to kind of expect and to work with and to continue on your journey along with the rest of the community, whom hopefully you have become friends with and become family with, and especially to lean on your spiritual father, the priest that you confess to, and also your godparent, who is there to help guide you and encourage you along the way. So again, just those few things to look out for when you're becoming a catechumen and when you're preparing to enter the Orthodox Church. Of course, there are many other aspects to it which your local priest can help you with during the catechism process. But the point is that this process is there to help people slowly be grafted into the body of Christ. Right? Christ is the vine, and we are the branches. And sometimes when we are not part of that vine initially, we are grafted into it. We are tied into the vine, and eventually we intertwine and become part of that. But that grafting process can be difficult often, and sometimes we can even encounter resistance, not from the church, but from ourselves and from our own passions and our own habits and even our old lives. And that can be a difficult process, which of course is helped by the church, by the priest, by the community. So again, if you're interested in Orthodoxy, don't hesitate to reach out. Don't be afraid. There's wonderful people here waiting for you to embrace you, to help you, and to start with you, to help you run that race, that marathon of life that we are all on. Well, there are lots of people who are willing to take that journey with you. So we do hope that all of you, whether you've already started your catechumenate or whether you're interested in Orthodoxy, will take the chance, show up to an Orthodox church, speak to the priest, speak to a council member, speak to somebody at the church, and get that process going. I hope this was helpful. God bless all of you, and we will see you next time on Fr.TEDTalks.